I separated all the parts into their sub-assemblies, and I put some Tamiya primer on it. Now I wanted to use the Tamiya primer instead of using my Ammo MIG, which I've used in previous builds. Now the reason is that the lacquer primer is really solid. It really binds the plastic, and that's what I need for the tricks I'm going to do in this video. The first stage, after we've got the nice grey primer on, which I said is lacquer, so I've allowed that overnight to bond, and that stuff really sticks to the plastic much better than the water-based, alcohol-based acrylics. Now I've got some life colour here. This is called a rock brawn or a red brown, and that's what I'm going to use as my pretend Russian primer, because they would have had a colour similar to this. Okay, so that's my colour, and this is a layer that's really going to be hidden or going to be scratched down to, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Now I'm going to separate the turret to make it easier to paint. Now the reason, this will make sense now, the reason I have reassembled the kit, even though it's only dry fitted, those wheels are just sitting in there, just dry, is that I want to really only have to paint the chipping where things are going to be seen once it's assembled. No point in me spray painting everything individually at this stage, okay? So really, I know those fenders will need chipping, I know that'll need chipping, these edges are us here, only the outside of the wheel, so it makes real sense to do this with the wheels basically on the model. A lot easier to paint, right? And I don't have to worry about painting under there, because really there's not going to be much chipping. I'll put a bit in there, right? And I don't need to paint my tracks. That's not what this is all about. This is merely about getting a undercoat only in areas where I'm going to want to run my chipping through. Now I've let the coat of paint dry for a few hours so that I know it's really locked down, and that's going to help with this next phase where I want to get the chipping medium over the top of that and let that set, and then you've got to work quickly with your upper layers, which are the layers that you actually are going to chip. So this is what I will be using, and this one is the one I could get hold of. It's a Vallejo one. I don't think it matters what you use. You can also do this apparently with hairspray, but I've never tried that. But we'll try it this way. I mean, normally I do my chipping the other way. I paint it on afterwards. But I'm going to try this chipping medium this time. So the theory goes that we've got the grey undercoat, or the primer, nice and solid, locked down, that shouldn't scratch off. Next we've got this red layer, which is supposed to look like, red rusty primer. Well, not rusty, but you know what I mean, reddy brown primer. And we'll put the chipping fluid over that, so that when I put the next layer of greens and browns, which are the camo, we should be able to scratch the camo off, exposing this red. And then every now and there, where we might press a little hard, we might actually go through the red and we'll expose the grey underneath. And that should give us a very realistic effect. Okay, let's spray the chipping fluid over the top. That's pretty awful stuff. I sprayed it neat to start with, and it was drying so quickly my fingers stuck together, and I quickly had to thin the stuff down and whack the pressure up, and yeah, I ended up spraying it at about probably 22-23 psi with 50% water and 50% the chipping fluid. Now it is hot here today. Well, hot probably for you guys. Once you guys are up in the Northern Hemisphere, it's freezing cold in winter. It's Australia and it's summer, and it was 25 degrees, which has cooled down from the 29 it was before, but it was probably only about 40% humidity. Now, that may have had something to do with my drying issues. Don't know. I didn't find any reference anywhere, and I looked around as to whether you should need to thin this stuff, but my recommendation would be thin it 50% with water, just to be on the safe side. And you've got to be careful. I know with Valley Hose stuff you've got to watch your pressure, because if your pressure's too high it dries really quickly. But I didn't think my pressure was that high. I started out at 15 psi, which I thought would have been fine. But I had to up the pressure to get this stuff through my 0.3 needle on the cheap little master airbrush that I've got. So that was my experience. Yours may differ. Anyhow, it's on and it's very sticky. That's all I can say. So very similar, I suppose, to hairspray, and we'll see how it goes. Right, here we go. We basically got everything with the coat of green on. I just want to test out this whole chipping thing before I go any further. And so one of the easiest things I think we'll do is a wheel. So let's have a look at a wheel. Alright, so apparently all we've got to do is wet it to activate it. This is the grottiest, stiffest brush I've got. And there's a result. Let's see if I can get some of the moisture out of that so you can really see what's going on. And there we go, we've got a bit of chipping. Alright, so we're starting to get the effect there already. Let's see what we can do with the toothpick. Oh yeah. Now the paint has dried enough so that I can move on to the next stage, which is the chipping. And I'd already sort of experimented with that, doing the wheels before and doing a little bit of chipping on the turret before I actually put the brown on as well. Now, my friend over in Iceland, I'll probably pronounce your name wrong, Rolfa, he suggested using a toothbrush. And I thought that would be interesting. We'll do that in a sec, but I'll follow what I was doing before, is a little bit of water, just to activate an area. Wow, a little bit. And then giving it a rub to break the paint off. So, rubbing through and getting the sort of the chipping pattern that you want. And then if you wanted it a bit more severe and you really want, you know, you can get in there with a toothpick. And the beauty is the acrylic paint is going to chip, but underneath where that Valley Hose solution, which is, you know, like the hairspray sort of a method, that is going to remain unaffected. So look, can you see that there? Can you see what we've done? I hope so. I hope so, says he in his squeaky little voice. Now let's try Rolf's idea. And he said to use the toothbrush. So let's do a little edge along here, say. So water on to activate, and then let's see if we can generally wreck and remove paint. Oh yeah, it does sort of work. It's a bit savage though. You haven't got as much control, but it is giving a nice worn appearance. So that's also another way that you can accomplish this. And here's the finished product. Well, finished as far as I'm going to go today. That's all the chipping done, and it's come up better than I expected. I'm really happy with that.